And welcome, my friends, Mr. Constitution Hour, Douglas V. Gibbs. This is the show that used to be on the San Diego radio stations, KPRZ and KCBQ, The Answer San Diego. And we didn't have enough funding to keep it going, so we migrated over to Rumble and YouTube. Welcome to the program. Basically, on Mr. Constitution Hour, what I've always tried to do is look at politics and American history through the lens of Christianity and the Constitution. Christianity and the Constitution, they are the important factors, foundational factors here when it comes to what we're about. Now, that all said, reminder today, June 6th, 2026, is the 82nd anniversary of D-Day. D-Day was the pivotal moment during World War II, where the military operation marked the beginning of the Allied invasion of Normandy during World War II. Codenamed Operation Overlord, it was the largest amphibious invasion in history, with over 156,000 Allied troops landing on 5 beaches across a 50-mile stretch on French coastline. American forces landed at Utah and Omaha beaches. British forces at Sword and Gold Beach, and Canadian forces at Juno Beach. The invasion was preceded by extensive aerial bombardment and airborne parachute drops behind enemy lines. And then, despite facing fierce German resistance and suffering heavy casualties, particularly at Omaha Beach, the Allies managed to establish a foothold in Normandy. This pivotal operation opened a Western front against Nazi Germany, forcing the Nazis to fight an additional front that would thin their resources to a breaking point, accelerating the end of the war in Europe. By late August 1944, northern France had been liberated, setting the stage for the eventual defeat of Germany less than a year later. The courage and sacrifice of those who participated in D-Day remain etched in history as a turning point in the fight against tyranny. And at Hot Air, I came across hotair.com. I came across an article by, and I don't know if it was an article or a poem, it was a little bit of both, by Selena Zito. And this is how it reads. 82 years ago, nearly all of the men on the first few boats that landed on the beach in Normandy were dead before day's end. Sit here with that for a while. Look at them. Really look at them. Look into their eyes. Many of them are boys. They are someone's son, someone's brother, someone's sweetheart, someone's father. They never came home. And every privilege, every convenience, every freedom, and every little thing that you want to complain about, you have because of them. And they paid the ultimate price for you to have those freedoms. God bless them, everyone. So this is a key day in history. And in fact, U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth gave a speech on D-Day today, Saturday, June 6, 2026, warning that Europe faced what he called an invasion of dangerous ideologies arriving by sea, linking immigration to the legacy of the D-Day landings in remarks in Normandy. His remarks echo criticisms often made by the administration of President Donald Trump about Europe, a region Washington argues is hampered by weak defenses, inability to tackle immigration, needless red tape, and censorship of far-right and nationalist voices to keep them from power. Sadly, today, different European beaches are stormed by different dangerous ideologies. Beaches in Spain, Italy, Greece, and Bulgaria. Boats and men arrive, Hegseth said in a speech at the Normandy American Cemetery in Colville-sur-Mer, or Mer. Quote, when will European capitals do something about that invasion? Or is it too late? I pray not, and I believe not, he said. Hegseth was speaking during commemorations for the 82nd anniversary of the Allied landings in Normandy, when U.S. and Allied forces crossed the English Channel to launch the liberation of Western Europe from Nazi occupation. U.S. officials, including Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, as recently as Friday, have often criticized European countries for failing to control immigration. A U.S. national security strategy document issued last year warned Europe faced civilizational erasure and must course correct if it is to remain a reliable U.S. ally. And it fascinates me as we read this because we watched Nazism, fascism, communism take over the world, and yet we say nothing as Islam spreads around the world, eager to invade. Why? Because they're not wearing uniforms and have a bazooka over their shoulder. They're not flying planes over and bombing. See, the tyrants, the authoritarian systems, the dictatorships, they've learned. The way to invade is not through direct attack like that. It has become through silent infiltration. Same thing's going on in the United States. How many of those illegal aliens crossing the border are invaders? As I said in an article just recently at douglasvgibbs.com, how many of them are coming either, how many of them, when they come from a place that's worse, come here, but they don't come to assimilate, they come as invaders because they want to change our system into where they came from. That makes them invaders. That makes them an enemy. That makes them someone who wants to change America, and we're fighting a war against them. But we for some reason, we refuse to recognize this. We have trouble understanding the importance of protecting our sovereignty, our national borders, our way of life. We don't want to recognize that there are enemies who want to tear us down. And so if you say something about it, you're a xenophobe or you're anti-immigration. And many of my Christian friends, well, Doug, we have to show Christian love. Yes, you do, but you don't do it while slitting your own throat. And I used an example not too long ago also to help people understand that when it comes to, what we're going through, we have to understand that it's like someone drowning in a lake. You go out there, swim out there, try to rescue them. And if they're pulling you under the water, if your attempt to be right to them destroys the both of you or destroys you, then I don't care how much you care, how much you love them. You can't save them. I have the shirt that has an American flag on the back and has a simple message. If you can't respect this flag, I'll help you pack. I usually get a positive response. And, and we have a society that doesn't seem to understand that you have to stand up against these attacks. But if you do, then it's called toxic masculinity. But toxic masculinity is the backbone of a successful civilization. Standing firm is the backbone of a successful civilization. Using our logic and analyzing and common sense and discernment beyond those feelings that you just want to help is the backbone of a successful civilization. When human nature reveals its flaws and we become all about feelings, then we will be destroyed. But when human nature reveals its flaws and we are willing to stand up to it, then that is the courage needed to push aside what damages the whole. I think of the prodigal son parable in the Bible, and the son, he rejected the family structure and he believed himself to be above the rules. I want my part of the inheritance. I'm going to do my own thing. Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to go be rich or something. And the kid and the father says, okay, you can have your half now. You don't have to wait till I die. Here you go. And the kid goes off and he spends it all. And he winds up hungry and he winds up homeless. And then he comes home. But through the process, he becomes humbled. The father was willing to let him go. He had to, because he was disruptive to the family, enabling the narcissism of that young man before he departed only bred more dysfunction. And when he sent him on his way, if he never returned, so be it. That doesn't mean that he didn't love his son. He loved his son greatly, but he understood that, hey, he's destructive in the family. He wants to play this game. Here you go. Make your decision, and you will pay the consequences of your decision. Don't drag down the family while you're at it. Don't pull us underwater while we're trying to save you. That's, you get back to psychology, right? Enabling people, things like that. It's like the the addict. They have to admit they have a problem if they're going to be willing to go to rehab, and for it to be meaningful. It won't be meaningful if they're not willing to admit. Now, we love our family, we love our country enough, we've got to protect it from destructive behavior. And this invasion, criminals, whatever, I've got a door here at my house. When someone knocks on my door, if they're going to be destructive, they don't belong, I don't recognize them, I'm not going to let them in. I'm going to vet them first before I even let them in. But what if, like the biblical prodigal, and we have these people within our country who hate America? Going back to my shirt, right? If you can't respect this flag, I'll help you pack. I'm happy to let you go. But if you return humbled, like the biblical prodigal son, ready to operate within the family's rules, and welcome back, open arms. We've got a system of liberty that has created unprecedented prosperity and freedom because of its Christian foundation, because of the constitutional foundation. And we have a right to preserve it. And it seems like we have a couple of enemies here. We have those that were born here who despise our founding principles, and then we have foreigners that we welcomed with open arms. Said, all right, great. You want to be a part of the family, go through the process. Don't jump the border, but come in. Then we'll welcome you. But if they refuse to assimilate and instead work to transform America into the very systems they fled, they are a part of that enemy camp. And to those people I say, if you hate this country so much, then why did you come here? The answer is simple. Either they fled something worse or they came as invaders. And sometimes it's both. And they are invaders. Most of them are invaders. I was on the radio today, and someone said, and Dennis Jackson on my KMET Constitutional Radio program says, gosh, a lot of these, these illegal aliens are coming to the country, and they're military age men. There's no women. Where's the women? Why aren't they bringing women? The Muslims and the communists and the Chinese and the Haitians and all these other groups of people, and they're military age males, and there's no women. There's women mixed into it, but for the most part, it's military age men. Where are the women? And it harkens me back to the early colonization of the New World. Spain came as invaders, as conquerors. They didn't send women. They sent the military men. And then the military men, they raped and they pillaged and they stole from the land because they were invaders. That's what invaders do. They come to conquer. They leave their women behind and they conquer. They'll send for them later once they've conquered the land. The English, they came with families. Early settlers were men, but then they sent for the women later. But not because they were conquerors, because they didn't know if the women could survive. They wanted to get it established, but then the women came. They didn't want to mix with the Indians, the local indigenous population, because they weren't invaders. They were here to settle. If you hate this country, why did you come here? Did you come as an invader? Did you come to burn our Constitution and topple the steeples of our churches and replace them with a mosque or a communist power to the people temple or whatever else you left behind that stands in opposition of American liberty? The very systems that created the misery that you supposedly escaped? If you hate America, then why are you here? And a lot of people hate America. They don't even realize they hate America. What has happened is they have been caught up in what's called ideological capture. It's a mindless loyalty to policies that are against the Constitution. They've been fed, brainwashed, some people might say, through the public school system, the media, entertainment, this progressive commie left agenda. And so there's a lot of voters who are unwilling to hear anything to the contrary, what they have been pitched, because they suffer from this ideological capture. And I'm watching this election in California, or elections, aside from the fact that I think they're stealing it, or trying to, with all the mail-in ballot shenanigans. But a lot of voters are still voting for Bass in LA and voting for Becerra for governor. Why? It's failed. It's fallen apart because they've been ideologically captured. First time I heard this term, it was Rob Schneider who mentioned it. It was while discussing the Los Angeles mayoral campaign, as a matter of fact. While Spencer Pratt was doing well enough in the polls at the time to be considered an electoral threat, the two Democrats on the ballot were still outpacing him. But Schneider explained it was a scheme that the political left uses to convince some people that their opposition is so evil, it's better to stick with the Democrats who have failed policies, because you'd rather have the failed policies and vote for the evil people, or vote for the failed people, than to vote for evil people on the other side. Right? Ideological capture. It's compelling analysis of the political polarization in general. What we see today, a key component of any political argument, no matter how many facts say otherwise, if you believe the other side's narrative, if you believe them when they say, oh, the other side's a bunch of racist, evil, Nazi, fascist, Hitleric people, then you fall for it. Then you're gonna vote against the evil. You'd rather have the failures than the evil. It's like a climate change. Well, the models look like they were designed to have predetermined endings. The predictions ain't coming true, but the other side's so evil. And if I vote for them, well, we all die. It's the end of the world. Even though everything's false, because the other side's evil. I can't vote for them. Can't believe them. The opponents of the Democrats are so evil, they believe. They don't want to protect you from, fill in the blank. It's a psychological phenomenon where fear and demonization of opposition overrides rational evaluation of policy outcomes or factual information. When ideological capture prevents people from evaluating policies based on results or proven facts, and instead on census based on the manipulation of the facts, it undermines the accountability mechanisms in governance. I've got a brother-in-law one time, he says, Doug, my mom agrees with you on every issue, abortion, taxes, marriage, but she's going to vote for Hillary. This is way back in 2016. She's going to vote for Hillary because she believes Trump is a racist and will deport her friends from church. Ideological capture. He's so evil. So even though I disagree with every policy of the Democratic Party, I'm going to vote for them because Trump is evil. How do you convince someone like that? The truth shall set you free, typically. But when you get to ideological capture, the truth doesn't matter. It's irrelevant, right? Or at least that's what we're told. It doesn't matter. So here we are, 82 years since D-Day, and we're being invaded by the same kind of invaders, and we're falling for it. We're not saying a thing. We're not standing up to it. And so our president says, hey, this ideology, this Islamic ideology is so evil that we can't let them have a nuclear weapon. And the leader of the pack in the Middle East is Iran. And they're funding all these proxies, all this terror. They get a nuclear bomb. They have an apocalyptic vision of the future. They believe in the 12th Imam. Make the world violent and chaotic enough, the 12th Imam comes up, and through the fire and violence and chaos and death will rise a new Islamic caliphate. That's what they believe. So Trump understands that one thing about Iran having the nuclear weapon is mutual assured destruction doesn't matter with them. See, with Russia, with China, maybe even kind of with North Korea, they're not going to launch against us because they know we'll launch against them. And we're both wiped out. When you're both wiped out, nobody wins. But see, the Iranian Muslim mullahs are Shiite who believe in this apocalypse. They don't care if they're destroyed because the 12th Imam and Allah is going to save them and create a new caliphate. And the way to get there is complete chaos, complete fire and brimstone and death. And Trump says, well, we're not going to allow them ever to have a nuclear weapon, ever. And so he did what he did with Operation Epic Fury. And now they're trying to make a deal. And he's willing to meet with Ali Khamenei, who I guess is the current, or no, Ali Khamenei was the father. The current one is something else Khamenei. Mojtaba Khamenei. Or Khamenei or whatever. And so Trump's like, hey, I would rather just get rid of this regime. But in the past, regime changes backfired on us. So let's try this a little different. Let's make it quick. Let's make them unable to do anything. And then let's get them to work with us. Problem is, they lie. Problem is, you cannot trust them. They are trained to play the long game. They know that Trump has opposition. And if they wait long enough, eventually Trump and his allies will no longer be in office. Then they can go back to their same old, same old. Because, see, we talk about Obama giving them all kinds of money, the pallet full of cash. What that was a tribute. They were paying a tribute to Islam to keep Islam from attacking. That's what Islam demands. And they're falling for it. Obama fell for it. Biden fell for it. Either that or they're in the same cahoots with them. This is what George Washington and John Adams did. George Washington and John Adams paid the Barbary pirates, Muslims, tribute, paid them pallets of cash also. So they quit attacking us so much. And they did quit attacking some of our ships, but not all of them. And Thomas Jefferson became president and said, no, we're not paying them tribute. We're not going to pay them protection money. And he sent the Navy and the Marine Corps to the shores of Tripoli, and he hit them. And he hit them hard. And then they tried again to be a problem under Madison, and Madison hit them hard. And then after they were done knocking them out, and they realized they couldn't mess with the U.S. to get tributes out of us anymore, they went silent for a very long time. Islam, I mean. Now we got today, same stupid tribute-paying leaders. Trump says, hey, like Jefferson, I'm not paying the tribute. I'm not giving you a red dime. You're not getting a single dime out of us. Instead, I'm going to disable your ability to be a problem. And then you're going to make a deal with me that you're not going to be a problem. And if you don't, I'll keep bombing the heck out of you. I'll keep disabling the next thing. And if I have to, I will completely. I don't want to because I love the people. I hate the leadership. But if we have to, we will disable everything. And it makes all the sense in the world. That's what needs to be done. For 47 years, this regime has been getting away with murder, terrorism, unchecked growth, and getting tributes. That's what the Iran deal was with Obama. It was a tribute. And also, you got to remember it's tied to China. China's two biggest energy receiving came from Venezuela and Iran. We're taking them both out. Now what do you do, China? Oh, you need to ask us for help now. It puts us in a position of strength. Past leaders want to put us in a position of weakness. You can't negotiate from a position of weakness. You need to be in a position of strength, and that's what Trump. Yeah, but Doug, the gas prices are high. You can't wait a little while for them to come, for this to get over before they come back down. This is basically what you were paying during Biden, and it wasn't even a war. Prices are going to come back down. Once the war is over, once things are flowing, once Iran is no longer holding the world hostage, and the Middle East no longer holding the world hostage, and we are unleashing the drill baby drill, prices will come down because of supply and demand. Increase the supply and remove the obstacles for it to get out there. Right now, there's so many obstacles and problems and players trying to do things that cause the prices to go up, along with the war, which causes a little bit of a shortage. Fact is, Iran cannot obtain a nuclear weapon. I don't care if your gas prices are high. What good is cheaper gas if you get blown up? That's my thoughts. Fact is, we have people who run our country outside of the Trump administration and all that, the left, the progressive left, mainly from California and New York and Chicago, it seems, and they hate America. They want America destroyed. They want Cloward Piven. They want to dismantle it. And in California, people are fed up as well. I used to live in California. I don't live there anymore. People are fed up. So in the race for governor and mayor of Los Angeles, the Republicans were doing well until they started counting ballots. Let me rephrase that, until they started counting the mail-in ballots. Now they're not doing so well. They went from getting close to a third of the vote to hardly getting any. Do mail-in ballot people really vote that hard left? Are there nobody that would vote for, the Republicans? Spencer Pratt actually is running as an independent. He's upended the mayor's race with blisteringly creative ads his people have been putting out. Relentless attacks on the competency of Mayor Karen Bass, who's a self-avowed communist, who slashed $17 million from the LA Fire Department's budget and left the city's main water reservoirs empty. When arson caused wildfires in January 2025, and then all the lefties running around in circles, climate change. No, it was some moron with matches. And they blazed out of control. Didn't have enough fire equipment, didn't have enough fire personnel, and you had no water. And so 6,000 plus homes in Pacific Palisades, including Spencer Pratt's, went up in flames. And Pratt now has generated nationwide buzz, widespread public support in Los Angeles, even among women. And ladies, don't get mad at me, but white, liberal, feminist women are the Democrats' largest class of voters at this point. But women, working class, minorities, residents, they're all lining up to vote for Spencer Pratt until we started counting the mail-in votes. It takes some, every other state with their primaries knew that night who won. California's what, in the fourth day now? They're not even close. And you got Pratt, he's going by what he sees. He's talking common sense. Homelessness. Stop the distribution of needles and open drug use in the city. strengthen law enforcement to reduce crime, provide firefighters and other first responders with the resources they need. And one of the biggest problems, California has this jungle primary system. See, in just about every other place, not every place, but most of them, most states, it's a regular old primary. The Republican candidates all get together on the Republican primary, and the top Republican then advances to November. And then the Democrats, they fight it out. The top Democrat advances to November. In California, it's a jungle primary where the top two vote getters, regardless of party, they're the ones who go to November, and you wind up with like 60-something candidates splitting the vote. The Republican can't get to the ballot because, the games they play, the irregularities, the anomalies, and the jungle primary system. And in typical blue state fashion of California, it'll take weeks probably to know who even won this thing. And I guarantee you at the last second, Rahman will skid past Spencer Pratt and they'll be like, oh, look, she pulled it off somehow through the mail-in votes. And the same thing will happen with the Democrat gubernatorial. Chad Bianco right now is fourth. Bet you he got more votes than they're saying. Steve Hilton was leading. Now he's like second. And at the last second, whoever the next Democrat is going to skid right past him. Right at the last second. You watch. By just enough votes. Just barely enough votes. Oh, how amazing. 2 Democrats again. How'd that happen? The polls closed 8 p.m. Tuesday. And we still don't know. And before they started counting the mail-in votes, Hilton was in the lead. Becerra was just behind him. Tom Steyer is that other Democrat, distant third. Spencer Pratt had over 30%. Rahman, the councilwoman Democratic Socialist, had only 22%. Now, 2 days after that, it's neck and neck for that second place. How amazing. What a surprise. And the cynicism that I am giving you is warranted. I used to live there. I used to have friends who would they'd be at the ballot box as an observer, see this stuff going on, and no one would believe them when they tried to report it. Plus, you got 2 to 3 million illegal aliens, at least. I think the number is even higher than that. They don't require ID to vote. Gavin Newsom in 2024 signed a law that expressly forbids cities and counties from imposing their own voter identification requirements. And even if ID were required, it wouldn't do much good without requiring proof of U.S. citizenship. And California is one of 19 states issuing driver's licenses to illegal aliens. And they have universal mail-in voting. One of the states that does that. They mail out a ballot to everybody. You can go in and vote, or you can mail it in. In Oregon, there is no choice. You get it by mail, you send it in by mail, or you drop it off in a box. My wife used to be registered a Republican. Suddenly this year, she's an independent. She didn't ask to be an independent. Suddenly, one less person able to vote in the Republican primary to make sure someone conservative doesn't vote for someone conservative. And all of this shenanigans going on, and California allows mail-in ballots to arrive up to a week after Election Day, if they're actually mailed. They're supposed to be postmarked by Election Day. But if they aren't mailed, since the ballots can be deposited, drop boxes across the state, Those ballots aren't postmarked. The only guarantee that they were completed by election day is if the drop boxes are closed and picked up by 8 p.m. on election day. That didn't happen. That doesn't happen. So people are dropping them in those drop boxes afterwards. And they're probably going back and checking again anyway because they want to get as many lefty votes as they can. And what's the and when it comes to all of that, where's the chain of custody? Who's keeping track of this? How many hands are these ballots going through? And then you got ballot harvesting. 35 states allow third parties to collect other people's ballots. Used to be illegal in every state, by the way. California permits individuals to collect an unlimited number of ballots from anyone, and they can even be paid to do it. Harvesters can collect ballots from people who don't speak English, from the disabled, from the elderly, in assisted living facilities. There's no supervision, no protection from pressure or undue influence, and no chain of custody assurances. It's rife for fraud and abuse. The deceit is clear. But until Congress gets its act together and gets the Save America Act passed, and it's not, man. We've got, what's wrong with Tom Tillis, man, the Republican he's ready to be gone. Susan Collins, but then if you lose Susan Collins, you wind up with Graham Plattner. The Save America Act requires identity and proof of citizenship in order to register. Why are they so against that? Well, if there's even one person who can't get an ID, it's suppression, voter suppression. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater here. It isn't too much to ask that the same people who pontificate about our democracy, saying our democracy would actually do their jobs, protect the integrity of the democratic process, and that people who think that they got to save the democracy can go get an ID to vote. They got their ID to collect their welfare check. They got an ID to be able to go to the bar or to buy their cigarettes or to get a job if they have one. You need an ID for those things. But yet it's too hard to have an ID to vote. And I don't know if California can even be saved. I mean, Steve Hilton, Chad Bianco, Spencer Pratt, they would offer a glimmer of hope if they could get through the quagmire of election. What's the right word? Fraud that's going on there. And, there are people, the reason why Hilton and Spratt and Spencer Pratt in particular are doing well is not because of Republicans. It's because the Democrats are going, hey, I'm sick of this stuff. I finally realized that I cannot be protected from the left's bad socialist madness, from bad policy. California gas prices, even before the Iran war, reached the highest levels in the continental United States. And nearly all of the refineries are out of that state. They're escaping. Producers are leaving the state. Big corporations, the money's leaving. Left-wing policies forbid new gas and oil exploration, impose radical green fuel mandates, and levy the highest gas taxes in the U.S. And they're driving out all the oil refineries. Illegal alien immigration, whatever you want to call it, numbers have soared. 11 million Californians, 28% of the resident population, were not born in the U.S. The foreign-born demographic exploded at precisely the time that civic education and melting pot assimilation and integration were denigrated in the public schools and replaced by ethnic chauvinism, DEI, multiculturalism. Hey, I have no problem. You have a culture, wonderful. But you're in America. Assimilate. I'm not going to go to France and expect them to do things the way I want it to be done. I'm going to have to learn French and follow their way of doing things. Now, if I want to, once I'm a citizen, work to change things through the processes, that's one thing. And all these illegal aliens breaking into our country, if someone breaks into my house, I don't automatically consider them a member of the family. I call the police and I have them removed. And my neighbors, if I were to call the police and have them removed, are not going to be throwing rocks and bottles at the police and calling them the Gestapo. A third of the United States welfare recipients, one third of the U.S. welfare recipients and a third of the homeless in this country live in California. A third of welfare recipients and a third of the homeless are in California. Almost a quarter of the state's population lives below the poverty line. California has the highest electricity rates, the steepest income taxes, runs the highest budget deficits, has a massive unfunded pension debt, $265 billion, spent billions of dollars on illegal alien subsidies, from free healthcare to solar panels, wasted between $15 billion to $20 billion on its Bakersfield to Merced high-speed rail line since the project was approved in 2008. And that's just a part of the United Nations sustainability. We're going to create mega regions and, where we cram everybody into the city areas, and we'll have high-speed rail to connect them so we get everybody out of the wilderness so we can save the planet, because people shouldn't be out there where the animals are. Of course, not a single foot of track has been laid yet in the past 18 years. Less than a third of California public school students read at proficient levels. Gavin Newsom's first budget as governor was $214 billion. His 226 budget is $350 billion, a 63% increase in spending in just 6 years. But because everybody's fleeing, how much money's coming in is going down. 12 million Californians have fled the state since Newsom began his uninterrupted 3-decade political career in 1997. And it seems that the more Californians have left, the greater the yearly exodus grows. They're looking at 500,000 this year, the way things are going. Mass flight from the most beautiful state in the union is the greatest indictment of what the Democrats are up to. Supermajorities in both houses of the legislature. Overwhelming numbers of lefty-appointed state judges. No statewide Republican executive office holders. Only 13% of California's 52-member congressional delegation is Republican. Yet Donald Trump won 38% of the state's vote. So how is it that Trump can get nearly 40% of the state's vote, but only 13% representation? What are they doing there to make sure that Republicans don't have any representation? And in the most recent Reason Foundation 50-state ranking of roads and highway infrastructure, California, with temperate weather, ranked 49th. Only ahead of frigid Alaska. And we know the cause of these California disasters: one-party rule for nearly 2 decades, a powerful left-wing Bay Area and Los Angeles area Democrat monopoly, a Democratic Party that's gone so socialist that even the communists are starting to get nervous. It's a strong, the socialist version of the Democratic Party is strongest in California, has pushed through a slate of disastrous radical green policies, sanctuary city madness, harebrained schemes to deal with the homelessness, critical race and legal theories, solar and high-speed rail boondoggles. And they're violating the Constitution on most of it because a lot of what they do, Article 1, Section 10 doesn't allow the states to do. And the ones they do, it's have to take a look at the California Constitution. But regardless, whether constitutional or not, the left doesn't care. Those are just little speed bumps on their way to their communist utopia. Election day in California is a mere construct because the winners always tend to be who they want. They mysteriously suddenly emerge after weeks of counting. Got massive illegal immigration, an unprecedented exodus of the upper middle class, the middle class, an enormous influx of new wealth have created this medieval society of a well-off and very poor with increasingly few in between. And then a lot of the wealthy have left as well. So it's kind of an exchange of the socialist wealthy arriving and the capitalist wealthy leaving. We know that we know how to save California, but the left wants nothing to do with it. Humane, drug-free relocation shelters for the treatment of the homeless, far from downtowns, coupled with strict enforcement of vagrancy laws might help. How about quit putting all your money into stupid policies and put it into the infrastructure and roads? End the no cash bail idiocy. Return to the 3 strikes rule that worked very well. Californians need a restoration of their oil, timber, and mining industries. Bring the refineries back. Allow drilling. I was talking to a woman one time. She said, well, yeah, but, back in the 60s, they had the drilling off the coast. And, the ocean water was like oil all the time. Oily. It was horrible. Well, okay, fine. We have new technology now. I doubt you're going to have that problem now. Need to get rid of the DEI garbage. Close the borders. In the sanctuary state and sanctuary city status, which is unconstitutional anyway, the federal law is that those people have illegally entered the country and they need to be deported. Article 6, anytime a state makes laws to the contrary to a federal law, that is and a constitutional federal law is the supreme law of the land, just like the Constitution. So having laws opposite that are unconstitutional. Return to a meritocracy. Return to melting pot immigration. Assimilation, going through the procedures. Across the board tax reductions. You know what happens when you reduce taxes and you get rid of regulations? It increases the wealth. And when it increases the wealth and investment and innovation, then you wind up with more revenue rather than less. And maybe the wealthy who are fleeing the state might come back. Have stiff penalties for welfare and entitlement fraud. That would deter the chronic looting of state programs. Quit sending all of the water out to the ocean. You're always in a drought because you're trying to save some fish that's in the Sacramento Delta area. That's not even indigenous to California. Central Valley used to be the breadbasket of the world, growing more food than not anymore. No water. They send it out to the ocean. And then they say there's a drought. And have this and reject these horrible curricula that we have in the schools, embrace a return to traditional classical education. I used to teach at private school and a homeschool. Those kids outpaced public school kids by 1,000%. Eager to learn, understood the materials better, were way advanced. Why? Because they weren't being shoved with a bunch of garbage, and they were actually being taught. The basics, as the old saying goes, the 3 R's. I mean, even the basic infrastructure and institutions can be fixed if you just get away from all the leftist policies. And the fact is, things are getting better. But they don't want you to know that. Do you think CNN is reporting, for example, the recent economy numbers that were just handed? The May jobs report just came in. It came in hotter than expected. 172,000 new jobs. Unemployment holding at 4.3%. The White House pushed the headline, and I guarantee you the leftist media isn't reporting. How do I know they're not reporting it? Because when the Delaney Hall thing was going on, when ICE officers were being bitten on the arm, when you had social media show one of those protesters shouting at an ICE officer, "You're dead. I've seen your face, your family, you're all dead." And I went to look it up on Google. Normally I don't use that, but I was curious what the leftist outlets were saying about those two items. Not a single story. Have you ever gone to Google and whatever you enter, right? New York Times, Washington Post, right? You get all the, CNN, you get all of that first. Mother Jones, whatever, Politico. So that's why I went to Google, because I knew it would give me all the leftists first. It wouldn't give me any conservative outlets. If Fox News shows up on anything, it'll be, page 18 or something. So I type in news about ICE agent being bitten on the arm at Delaney Hall, and then another look on Google. News about, and then I quoted the idiot that was shouting, "I'm going to kill you," to the and your family, to the ICE agent. Not a single leftist outlet showed up. It was all social media except for two sites, Fox News and New York Post. The left never even mentioned it. Crickets. They don't just lie, they cherry pick. Didn't fit the narrative. ICE is the problem, not these people. ICE is the Gestapo, not these people, so we won't report it. So you think they're reporting this? Fox Business News reported that economists expected a gain of 85,000, and the number was 172,000. The report came in roughly double what the experts were bracing for. Democrats aren't talking about it. They don't want to advertise that. They don't want people to know that. March and April revised upward by a combined 93,000 jobs, meaning the prior two reports were stronger than first reported. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported the official May numbers as 122,000 in May, and the unemployment rate was unchanged at 4.3%. Job gains occurred in leisure and hospitality, local government, and healthcare. Employment and financial activities declined. This news release presents statistics from two monthly surveys. The household survey measures labor force status, including unemployment, demographic characteristics. This establishment survey measures non-farm employment, hours, and earnings by industry. For more information about the concepts and statistical methodology used in these two surveys, see the technical mode or note. And then it goes on and gives a little more information. That's a strong report for a White House that has been hammered with doomsday predictions about tariffs, inflation, and there's a recession right around the corner. Can't count him. I had a pastor tell me that I met a former pastor, actually. He's retired now. He owns a local business. During the Memorial Weekend parade, he says, "Oh, I'm doing this and this and this financially because I'm preparing for the recession that's coming." What recession? Recession if the left makes it that way. But if you leave it alone, let Trump do his thing, let the Republicans do their thing, this will continue. Surprise, surprise, higher job numbers than expected. Surprise, surprise, the economy is still growing. Surprise, surprise, the stock market's still breaking records. This is not the collapse that Democrats are praying for. Well, they don't pray. Well, they pray to somebody, but it's not God. Over the year, average hourly earnings increased by 3.4%. And I'm not talking because of the law increasing minimum wage. And this is a political problem for the Democrats because it's the economy, stupid, right? That's what we hear all the time. Instead, the latest federal jobs data shows hiring beating expectations, unemployment holding steady, and the 2 previous months being revised higher. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that every American household is feeling relief yet. I hope we are by the end of the summer in time for the election, because it's the economy, stupid, right? The election's going to go in the Republicans' favor if the economy is doing well. What it does mean is Democrats are going to have a harder time selling the public their economic panic, their panicking attacks. If the jobs report keeps moving upward, if the economy and inflation continues to move down, economy keeps getting stronger, inflation keeps moving downward, jobs are up and unemployment steady, and the experts keep missing it, it's going to be good for President Trump. It's going to be good for the Republicans in November. And the midterms, nothing to worry about. And Trump said, hey, we're the hottest country in the world because the jobs numbers smashed expectations. On True Social, here's what Trump said about it. Despite the best efforts of the America-hating Democratic Party, which did its very best to destroy the USA during the 4 long years of the Autopin administration, over 172,000 Americans found jobs in the month of May alone. As usual, 100% of Bloomberg economists who appear to be entering the terminal stages of Trump derangement syndrome underestimated our economy. Unlike the phony California election results, these numbers don't take months and months to trickle in. Pass the Save America Act. They always say April showers bring May flowers. Well, here in the hottest country in the world, in both April and May, it's raining jobs. And they shared a chart showing just how wrong the unexpected job numbers were, or the expected job numbers were. CNBC reported, in addition to the strong jobs numbers for May, revisions for prior months also presented an even better picture. The April tally represented an upward revision of 64,000. March got a boost of up to 214,000, a gain of 29,000. Things are coming up rosy. And I'm not talking Rosie O'Donnell. We're doing well. But now what do you do? And I was talking, I was on an interview recently, just the other day, and it's for an event called the Engaged Citizen Summit, Hope Factor Engaged Citizen Summit. Couple weeks, they'll have the summit, and I'm one of the speakers, and I'll do a live panel. We don't have the exact dates yet. And basically what I told Stephanie Hope, the person interviewing me during the interview, was it's simple. We need to be informed, but once you're informed, you need to do something with it and make sure you're properly informed. You have the right information. and then do something with it. Yeah, but Doug, I'm not you. I'm not going to do a show. I'm not going to get out there on the streets. I'm not going to. Then find your favorite candidate and stuff envelopes for them. We all have something we can do, whatever it might be. Make sure you vote. Make sure you encourage other people who agree with you to vote. Well, my vote doesn't matter. Yes, it does. And even if it doesn't, it does. Talk to your Congress critters. Talk to your representatives. I was talking to Ken Calvert, Republican congressman in Southern California one time. He said for every one person that contacted him, he assumed they represented about 5,000 people in their opinion. Your voice matters. Get involved. And you know what? Some of you run for office. Why not? Whether you win or not, go for it. Have the experience. And if you win, great. You are right in the front seat to improve things. If you don't, you'll learn a lot from it. I ran for city council in 2010. I ran for school board in 2018. I'm wondering if I may, now that I've lived in my new location coming up on 2 years, if I'm going to start getting involved in that way. I don't know yet. I'm a part of a veterans group, have breakfast once a week, stuff like that. We'll see. Thanks for spending the time with me. This has been the Mr. Constitution Hour. It used to be on radio. Now it's on Rumble and YouTube. I am Douglas V. Gibbs, Mr. Constitution, right there. If you watch the video, right there, douglasvgibbs.com. douglasvgibbs.com. My list of books right now is not on that site, but at Navigation to Liberty, that's navigation, the number 2, liberty.com, you can purchase books there. You can find the links for purchasing books there. That's my books site for the time being. Thanks for spending the time. We'll see you next time. God bless. United we stand, combined we kick butt. God bless America, my friends. God bless you. See you on For the Republic tomorrow on Patriot Soapbox. Untold History Channel on Tuesdays. Right back here on Thursday mornings. And of course, KMET 1490 AM on Saturdays from 1 to 3 Pacific. See you next time. Bye-bye now.